Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Herrick. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other. They both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Orland Park, Illinois.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead Podcast, episode number 74 for Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring tips on winter tractor maintenance, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast. My name is CC Hawkley, the AHL editor of Full Press Hockey.
And I'm Sean O'Brien from Stats Track, the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
And as always, we thank you all for tuning in with us.
And if you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to recap some of the matchups from the past weekend for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games. We're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you may want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're newer to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out. So you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes, and let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes scouring the NCAA football rulebook for what disconcerting signals actually means. You'll never get that time back. So next time, why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey?
All right, and before we get into recapping the weekend that was, we are going to recap the speed round and the picks that we made from those series previews. And first off, we actually forgot to pick a game. That does happen sometimes. We let a game slip through the cracks, especially with all of these postponements going on. Iowa and Grand Rapids on Friday. The model picked Grand Rapids as a 57.1% favorite, and Grand Rapids wins 3-1. Toronto and Laval also didn't happen. We did predict that game, and we also predicted Toronto at Springfield, but that is for Monday and not Sunday. So, oops. Also, it turns out the Marlies, and this is something that, yeah, this is just beyond crazy. The Marlies had 23 player cases of COVID. 7 coaching and support staff tested positive as well. The general manager was the only one with the direct contact that did not get a positive test. The GM had a negative test. So all those guys were in quarantine and everything. What were you going to say, Sean?
Point out, most AHL teams don't even have 7 coaching and support staff people in the building ever. So, of course, Toronto is the only one that does.
Of course. I mean, would you expect anything less? No. Anyway, the winner of the week is me. Yes, I went 14 of 28 for an even 50%, so not too much to brag about. But Sean fared slightly worse, 11 of 28 for a 39.3% correct picking rate. And that's fine because, I mean, things have just been all over the place, crazy taxi squads. So I'm not going to boast too much about that. I take the season lead, however, with the overall head-to-head picking record between Sean and I of 3-2. Again, not leaving him in the dust by any means. And same with the picking percentage overall. I wasn't there for one of these episodes, so you do have more picks in you. But if we're going by points percentage here, I have 51.4% correct picking rate. You have 50.9, so 0.5 percentage points between you and I. It's still close, and it's still anyone's game heading down the backstretch. Well, not the backstretch, but you know what I mean.
I also have not graded the models picks from the past weekend yet, so I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, we're still both below the model.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, the machines are winning. There's no doubt about that. But anyway, so that's the pick'ems for the week. We did all right. I mean, barely breaking even for me. But let's get to the on ice action and leave the picks behind. We're going to talk about the Utica Comets first and their weekend series. Friday, 7 p.m. against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Saturday at 7 p.m. against the Hartford Wolfpack. Both of these games at home. So, Sean, we have a goals recap for Friday against the Baby Pens. Lay it on us. How did it go?
All right. On Friday, just as a 5-on-3 becomes a 5-on-4 power play for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, Jason Shia praises the Comets penalty killers and praises the Comets penalty killers for getting sticks in passing lanes. Karma immediately strikes him as Frederick Gauthier doesn't get his stick in Philip Hollander's passing lane from the sidewall to Alex Nylander at the top of the far circle. Nylander dishes to Puustinen, who blasts a one-timer past a sprawling Merrick's Mittens. 1-0 Baby Pens with 15:47 left in the first. The Comets come right back, though, as Kevin Ball plays catch at the point with Nikita Odchuk and fires a one-timer on the return pass. The shot goes wide, but Penn State alum Arnie Talvidi tries to bang in the rebound off the back wall. Napier makes the save, but overcommits in doing so. The rebound comes in the slot where Alexander Holtz wins a battle with Kyle Olson and bangs it into a wide-open net. Tie game at 1 with 13:23 in the first. Comets take the lead as Chase DeLeo gets his own entry down the boards, but pulls up and looks for support. He finds Jeremy Grollo at the point, who risks one towards the heap of humanity at the front of the net. It hits Brian Flynn and deflects past Tommy Napier. 2-1 Comets with 11:18 left in the first. Felix Robert wins a face-off draw back to Chris Bigras in the Utica zone. Bigras hits Cam Lee at the point. Lee settles the pass, winds up and fires a slap shot that hits Jordy Bellerive in the shin pads and deflects past Merrick's Mittens, tied at 2 with 7:34 left in the first. In the closing seconds of a power play, Chase DeLeo scoops up a deflected pass attempt along the half wall. He curls down towards the faceoff dot and skates right at Taylor Fadoon, freezing him. DeLeo then makes a no-look backhand pass to Nate Schnarr. Schnarr hits the one-timer that beats Tommy Napier at glove side. 3-2 Comets with 17:21 left in the second. Sam Poulin takes a pass from Taylor Fadoon in the neutral zone and skates into the Wilkes-Barre Scranton defensive zone on a regroup. Frederick Gauthier pressures Poulin and gets Poulin to make a horrid turnover as he gift wraps a pass through the high slot to Ryan Schmelzer. Schmelzer walks in and fires a wrister past Tommy Napier's glove. 4-2 Comets with 10:06 left in the second period. Kevin Ball makes a stretch pass to the neutral zone that's picked off by Cam Lee, who walks into the Utica zone and fires a wrister from outside the home plate area. Merrick's Mittens can't control the rebound and kicks it right into the slot where Jan Drozig puts it past a diving Mittens to get the Penguins within 1. 4-3 Comets with 16:09 left in the third. Alex Nylander picks up a rebound along the half wall and kicks it back to P.O. Joseph on the point. Joseph draws Chase DeLeo in a bit before passing D to Mitch Reinke. Joe Gambardella has blown his D-zone coverage and is nowhere near Reinke, which allows him to walk down to the circles before dishing to Valtteri Puustinen for a one-timer that blows past Mittens. It's a tie game at 4, 13:35 left in the third. Alex Nylander picks up a puck in the Comet zone off a weird bounce from a neutral zone play to get a rush chance going. He darts down the wall and draws Michael Vukovic to him. Comets back checkers don't pick up Taylor Fadoon hustling into the play. Nylander hits a backhand pass right to him in the slot, and he buries one past the blocker of Mittens. 5-4 Penguins with 11:27 left in the third. But off a soft penalty call for interference, the Comets head to a critical power play. They win a faceoff in the Wilkes-Barre Scranton zone and battle for the puck along the half wall. Anthony Angelo misreads the play, loses Alexander Holtz, and gives the Comets a 3-on-1 down low. Chase DeLeo puts a pass across Royal Road for Holtz. Holtz one-touches it back across Royal Road for Frederick Gauthier, who slams it home. Tie game at 5 with 7:31 left in the third. Regulation and the 3-on-3 overtime do not give us a winner, so we head to the competitive coin toss known as the shootout to decide the Comets' fate. Alexander Holtz weaves across the slot, pulls one backhand forehand, and tucks it glove side. Anthony Angelo flat out snipes one low glove past Merrick's Mittens to atone for a bit for his previous sins. Fabian Zetterlund literally takes a full wind-up slap shot from the high slot and puts it over the glove of Tommy Napier. Nylander, Flynn, and Puustinen don't score, making Zetterlund's slapper the winner. 6-5 Comets on Friday. On Saturday, Fewer goals happened. A stupid LeBerge slashing penalty sends Hartford to the power play. Hartford wins the faceoff and works the puck on the perimeter, but Tyler Wotherspoon never gets into position on the PK. Ronning passes from the half wall to Schneider, who puts it across to Potato. On the other half wall, he passes across Railroad to where Wotherspoon is supposed to be and finds Ty Ronning for the tap-in. 1-0 Wolfpack, 8:13 in the first. Arnie Talviti tries to pull a pass from behind him, but is cut off by Mike O'Leary. Mike O'Leary passes to Christian DiGiacinto in the high slot. DiGiacinto makes a no-look backhand pass to Alex Wayland, who snipes one from a bad angle. Short side, bar down. 2-0 Wolfpack with 13:16 left to go in the period. A phantom slashing call sends Utica to the power play, a makeup call, if you will. Nate Schnarr recovers a rebound off the shot block and works the puck to the half wall for Fabian Zetterlund. Zetterlund quickly goes across Royal Road to chase DeLeo at the faceoff dot, and DeLeo quickly taps it to Frederick Gauthier at the top of the crease, and he buries it past a sprawling Adam Huska. Comets are within one with 15:46 left in the third period, but cannot muster the comeback. That would be the final, 2-1 Hartford.
Cristiano Di Giacinto. What's the matter, you? Di Giacinto. Sorry. The Sicilian in me is coming out a little bit. So anyway, we have picks recap. I picked Wilkes-Barre Scranton on Friday and Utica on Saturday. I got both of those picks wrong. Sean, you wanted to pick Hartford, but you couldn't with their top guys in New York City with the Ranges. So you picked a Utica sweep. First game you got, second game went to the Wolfpack. So yeah, Utica was favored in both games by the model, 55.4% over Wilkes-Barre Scranton and 57.5% over Hartford. So 1 out of 2 ain't bad for you guys, and I pooped the bed. Anyway, let's talk team level takeaways for Utica. Man, after some recent struggles, the Comets split the weekend here. Both games had some similar themes for Utica. We talked about playing a clean game defensively in front of Merrick's Mittens. And we said if the Comets couldn't give him a good environment, it would be up to Mittens to hold his end up. Shawnee, how did this play out?
I mean, I think it's easy to just pin all the blame for this weekend on Merrick's Mittens. A couple of those goals that he gave up on Friday were not spectacular. The rebound he kicked out that John Drozig tapped in, that was a bad one. Anthony Angelo's snipe in the shootout probably could have been stopped. Like 1 or 2 others that I'm like, that's not a bad goal per se, but I think a better goalie would have either kicked the rebound to a different place or done a better job with it. I mean, but I'll be honest, I think pinning all the blame on Merrick's Mittens this weekend is a lazy answer. Was Merrick's Mittens outstanding this weekend? No, he was not. Was he serviceable given the scoring chances he encountered? Absolutely. The Comets defense played atrociously in front of him in both games in different ways, which I actually think is worse. Because if you played the same bad game in front of him, at least that's an easy thing to correct. Now, Comets on Friday had a lot of trouble with winger play in the defensive zone, transitioning between their responsibilities when the puck is below the dots versus above the dots. So most professional hockey teams structure their defensive zone scheme in the same way. Basically, they play a different scheme by location of where the puck is. When the puck is above the face-off dots, most teams play either man-to-man or a version of zone coverage that almost looks like cover 2, but for hockey. When the puck is below the dots, teams almost universally play a system that is called 5 tight, which they have all 5 guys inside the home plate area. And basically the winger or the center and the defenseman's job is to pressure the puck carriers and try and create the breakout. The defenseman and other winger, their job is to guard the front of the net. The remaining winger's job that's on the boards is to cut the top off and make sure that passes don't go low to high. And because you're sometimes transitioning between those responsibilities of man-to-man versus that 5 tight, you can get some wingers who get lost in transition. And that's what happened a lot to the Comets on Friday. You saw a lot of high cycles by the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins and then followed by like a low swinging pass. And all of these wingers would be scrambling all over the place because a lot of them in some cases just weren't in this up to speed with having, only played once since that big holiday break. They weren't ready for that kind of transition game. And Wilkes-Barre Scranton took advantage of them early and often throughout the game. And that manifested itself over and over. Problems with wingers covering the points, not being in the right place. Thankfully, the Comets are blessed with guys like Alexander Holtz and Chase DeLeo who can put this team on their back and carry it through, kicking and screaming these rough defensive kind of outings. And that's essentially what you saw, is the forwards carry the offensive play and just cross their fingers that they could get enough decent defensive play in front of Merrick's mittens and a big save or two to be able to pull this one out. But I'll be honest, that was not a pretty effort against a Wilkes-Barre Scranton team that is, and this is true, bad. Saturday, Tyler Wotherspoon and Robbie Russo just were awful. Robbie Russo in the first period made 2 turnovers in a span of about 10 seconds that were not only unforced, but comedically unforced. There was one where he had 5 or 6 seconds to make a play with the puck and instead just kind of stood there and waited for pressure to be on his doorstep, and then was like, oh, I should skate now. And yeah, that didn't go well. And again, Alexander Holtz not in this game. So it was up to Chase DeLeo to carry this team kicking and screaming. So 50% of their service was not there. I mean, Tyler Wotherspoon in this game too. I mean, he was on the list of rumored players that were going to go to the Olympics to represent his country. And I don't think I've ever seen a guy look like he is actively trying to play his way off of an Olympic roster spot. But wow, Tyler Wotherspoon was terrible in these games. The one goal directly scored against him on the penalty kill. I actually sent a screenshot of it to you, Cece, and I'm like, Cece, how long does it take before Hartford scores? He goes, oh, immediately. He's like, correct. I remember as soon as I saw Wotherspoon's play off that faceoff, I was like, oh, this is bad. And 3 seconds later, Hartford scored right through the spot that he was supposed to be. Robbie Russo also repeatedly just making turnovers in this game. And I said this last year when he was on San Jose, he is not a good skater anymore. He is actively bad skating defensively. And even, I mean, that's just so much defensive skating, but just skating in general. He has the urgency of a DMV worker and was just turning pucks over in ways that were almost innovative. And that's not what you want to see from guys who are supposed to be veteran presence, that are supposed to be, steadying forces for your young guys like Kevin Ball and Riley Walsh to look up to. They were bad. But thankfully, Chase DeLeo at least managed to put on a clinic as best he could and get them within striking distance. But this was not a good defensive effort from the Comets this weekend. And especially too, a bad defensive effort in front of a goalie that I feel like we all kind of knew you really couldn't put the game on his shoulders. And that's not to say, Merrick Mittens should never play hockey again, but my God, I thought he played reasonably okay, given the fact that he was basically hung out to dry multiple times for the Comets this weekend. But if Kevin Dineen didn't run into the locker room in the first intermission screaming at that team on Saturday's game, he is a better man than me, because I wanted to, and I'm not even a Comets fan. But there is definitely a lot of tape to review and a lot of cleaning up that needs to be done on the defensive end, because that was not a good effort. Offensively, though, lots of good things. That team literally looked like the same offensive team once it got the puck moving in the zone that we've seen, run 12, 13 wins up in a row. And that's at least something that you can point to as a positive from a team level for this weekend, is that offense is still flowing. And even though, Chase DeLeo did most of it, you still saw good moments from Arnie Talvidi, from Frederick Gauthier, obviously Alexander Holtz in the one game he played on the weekend. But there's a lot of work to be done on the defensive end there.
And Sean, you've kind of naturally segged yourself from the team aspect of things into mentioning individual skaters. Obviously the insufficiencies of Wotherspoon and Russo, and the chiropractic bill that's getting racked up by, Alexander Holtz and Chase DeLeo, because they're trying to carry this team on their back, though. And let's talk about some more individuals that you noticed, either good or bad, that Utica showcased this weekend.
I mean, Chase DeLeo almost goes without saying, but he really is the MVP of this team so far. I mean, the goaltending has been great. Don't get me wrong, Akira Schmid, huge reason that this Comets team is where it is. But DeLeo is the one Comet that I have trouble throwing shade at. And that's not because he doesn't make mistakes or have flaws. He does. But because he continues to find ways to make things happen and has that mindset to push through. He doesn't quit on plays down low when he absolutely could and get away with it. But he continues to grind and go to work in those dirty areas. He drew a few penalties this weekend just by outworking defensemen down low in the offensive zone, forces them to basically give up a scoring chance or take a hooking call, and they take the hooking call. That's the kind of work ethic and mentality you want to have displayed for the rest of your bench to see. And definitely one that seems like it pulled the rest of the team out of a rut in some moments in which they were clearly not on their game. I was also really impressed with Nikita Hodachuk. He was physical in the right places and at the right times, not just hitting guys to hit them, but to separate them from the puck and make a defensive play with it. He killed a lot of dangerous plays before they developed and was one of the few defensemen for Utica this weekend who held the blue line consistently and made a strong and maintained a strong gap. That gap control that he has between him and the forwards coming into the zone is what separates him from a lot of defensemen at this level. I don't know if he's ever going to have enough offensive output to make an NHL regular out of him, but for a spot duty call up, he's someone who I think has at least earned a look to play, bottom pair minutes and penalty kill time in New Jersey in the future. Lastly, we need to talk about Kevin Ball. Ball only played one game this weekend, the Friday game. I don't know why he didn't play Saturday, as Utica was a man short. They certainly could have used him. I'm assuming he got hurt or called up. I didn't see, unfortunately. But Kevin Ball cannot play power play minutes. I have no idea why he's continued to be trot out there. He's very bad at it. I mean, the attributes you want from a defenseman on the power play, skating speed to lead the breakout, deception and hockey IQ on offense, playmaking vision, the ability to manipulate defenders and open up passing lanes, open up space. If nothing else, a cannon hard shot, so at least there's a shooting threat that teams have to take seriously from that spot on the ice. Kevin Ball has none of those attributes. He has good edge work and skates well for a guy his size, but I think most ECHLers could give him a run for his money in a goal line to goal line skating race. He's not offensively gifted with shooting talent, playmaking vision, or the hockey IQ in the offensive zone you would want to be able to move defenders and create space. That's not to say Kevin Ball doesn't have value. He's a capable penalty killer, solid physical defensive defenseman. He's good in his own zone. He uses leverage well. He scans over his shoulder to pick up threats that other guys don't. He's a semi-capable defenseman on first pass breakouts and can make routine plays in the offensive zone. But that's not what he's being asked to do to run a power play. And if he ever does develop into an everyday NHL player, which is still an if at this point, he's not going to play on the power play. So he's not good at it. He's not getting better at it. It doesn't fit with his current skill set. And if he advances, he still won't do it. So why is Kevin Ball on the power play for the Comets? This is the one coaching decision by the Comets so far this season that I've questioned, because otherwise I feel like my affinity for Kevin Dineen and his staff has been well documented throughout the season. But this does not make sense, though.
You've got to think that Kevin Ball has got some dirt on Kevin Dineen.
No, because what is it? Mark Dennehy put him in the same spot last year, and he was still terrible there.
Oh, yeah,
but
good point. Good point.
I think the other thing too is they don't have, you could easily just make it Walsh and Russo, and those are your two defensemen. You run 4F 1D for both units, but for some reason they seem really hung on playing 2D on that second unit, and the other one being Kevin Ball. And for whatever reason, that's what Kevin Dineen and the staff are doing or being told to do. Because I have to imagine they see that I'm not some omniscient hockey god, that I see things that they don't, because they're real obvious to me that Kevin Ball shouldn't be there. So I have to imagine that Dineen and his staff noticed that too, and either willfully ignoring it or being told from New Jersey brass, no, you play that kid on the power play.
That was going to be my next guess, is that latter thing that you said there, because he's a 21-year-old, prospect in his second year pro. He's spent a little bit of time with the Devils in both seasons. So it's just to get in some power play time down at the AHL level, because he sure as hell wouldn't get it at the NHL level.
No,
we know
he's
that.
not going.
No.
But it reminds me of like with Hershey and Martin Feravari. Like Feravari doesn't play power play in Washington because he shouldn't, because he sucks at it. But Hershey kept trotting him out there, despite the fact that he was terrible at it and never produced on the power play. But there it is. Power play 2 unit, Martin Feravari coming over the boards. So this is not unique to Utica.
Sure.
Teams do this all the time where it's like that guy. But it's one of the few moments in which I've disagreed with a coaching staff decision that Kevin Dineen has made. So I at least wanted to document that via YouTube.
Sure. Hey, and sometimes, like we've mentioned, it's not up to the coach, really. I mean, they do get messages from above regarding certain prospects and what they want to do with them, and the coaching staff just has to strategize the best they can around that. Go ahead.
I think one of the most interesting questions I would have for any AHL coach is, with so many teams, like if your NHL team owns your AHL club, they're your hockey ops department. And a lot of them will dictate what your system is going to look like by and large, because they want, when they call guys up in a pinch, to not have to explain a completely different thing to them in the span of 12 hours or less.
Right.
So
right.
by and large, they play the same systems. And my question would be, is if you're an AHL coach, like, how do you carve out a niche from yourself if half of what you have to do is dictated to you, regardless of whether or not that's the right thing for the team? Like, that's a hard thing to do, to try and stand out when it's like, oh yeah, this coach is basically handicapped because, New Jersey is telling him, you put Kevin Ball in the power play or we're going to have problems, or you play, this style of play, even though that doesn't suit your roster because that's what we play. Mm-hmm. And I really want to know how you carve out a niche, carve out an identity, have an impact on the team at your own, individual level as a coach, if that's what's being done behind the scenes. Because in some cases, that's absolutely true. Like, I don't think that John Wroblewski wants to play as much dump and chase as they do, but that's what LA plays. So that's what Ontario does. I don't think that's, last season with the Devils that they wanted to play. They don't play 5 tight in New Jersey. They play what's called the Swarm last season, which is a much more physical and much more risky down low scenario. And I think that that's what caused a lot of the problems that the B Devils had last year, is they were playing a style that didn't fit for their roster, but it was what New Jersey did. So gotcha. I'm curious about those things. But anyway, looking forward to Utica. CC, where are they going?
Well, the Comets alternate back and forth between home and away this coming week. They head to Rochester to play the Amherst on Wednesday, January 12th. Then they travel back to Utica to host the Syracuse Crunch on Friday, January 14th. And then they switch over. They head on over to the Upstate Medical Arena in Syracuse, the War Memorial, as the road team against the Crunch the next day on Saturday night. The Comets are still almost 20 percentage points ahead of Rochester in the North Division standings, in spite of their recent struggles. So a 1-2 matchup on Wednesday will be crucial for points here now in the 2022 calendar year.
Yeah, because if you can get a win in regulation, like, that's a bunch of percentage points that you're swinging from one team to you. So yeah, 20 sounds like an uncatchable number, but it's not.
You call those the 4-point games, those interdivisional games. I mean, they pretty much all are at the AHL level, but especially when you're 1-2 like that, those are really 4-point games.
All right. Well, that is all we have for Utica. We're going to take a break here. After the break, we will get to the Chicago Wolves weekend. If you're just here for Utica, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from, so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links, can all be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills. We will be right back. Stay tuned.
Alrighty, we have recapped one weekend series from the Utica Comets in the North Division of the Eastern Conference of the AHL. Now, we head on over to the Western Conference to talk about the Central Division leading Chicago Wolves. They had 3 games in 3 days. Friday, 7 p.m. at Rockford at the BMO Center there in Rockford, Illinois. Saturday, 7 p.m. versus Iowa, hosting the Wild. And then Sunday at 3 p.m. hosting the Cleveland Monsters. Sean,
a lot of goals.
Take a deep breath. Pace yourself. Remember, it is a marathon, not a sprint. Godspeed to you, my friend. Start with Friday. Take it one game at a time.
All right, Friday, Wolves fans, if you want to just skip over this part, maybe hit the next 15 seconds a couple times. I don't blame you at all. This is going to get ugly.
Yeah.
On Friday, Ice Hogs get on the boards first as Dylan McLaughlin enters the zone, chips the puck to the corner. Alex Regula and CJ Smith go in to retrieve, but Jalen Chatfield jumps into the play as well and lets Lucas Reichel run amok. Alex Regula recovers the chip in and finds Reichel alone in the slot. Reichel one-times the pass over the glove of Michael Lackey. 1-0 Ice Hogs, 14:25 left in the first. The Ice Hogs get a good bounce in their defensive zone and start up ice for a 3-on-2 rush. Lucas Reichel dishes to Andre Altabarmakian as the Ice Hogs enter the zone. Jack Drury, a forward covering D for Max Lajoie, gives Altabarmakian way too much space. Altabarmakian cuts to the slot and risks one past Lackey. 2-0 Ice Hogs, 18:14 left in the second. Alex Regula covers the rebound as a penalty to Chad Yetman expires. Regula hits the stretch pass to Yetman out of the box for a breakaway. Yetman snaps one over the glove of Lackey. 3-0 Ice Hogs with 15:56 left in the second. On the power play, Lucas Reichel attempts a slot pass that's broken up and goes into the far corner. Max Lajoie attempts to clear, but it hits Evan Barrett in the skates and deflects back to the slot. Josh Jacobs once again abandons his responsibility in front of the net, leaving Lucas Reichel alone on an island. Evan Barrett pokes the loose puck over to Reichel, and he buries it over the blocker of a stickless Michael Lackey. Michael Tepley picks up a charity second assist. 4-0 Ice Hogs with 14:16 left in the second. Garrett Mitchell wins an offensive zone faceoff to Jakob Poor, who cuts to the circle and risks a rocket past Lackey. 5-0 Ice Hogs with 5:48 left in the second period. Michael Tepley recovers it and passes behind the net to Lucas Reichel. Reichel's pass to the slot is deflected and bounces past Jesper Sellgren, but Josh Levo lets Michael Tepley coast past into the slot where Tepley fires the loose puck past Lackey. 6-0 Ice Hogs. After drawing 3 Wolves skaters to him at the point, Andre Altabarmakian chips one down into the zone. Michael Tepley recovers it and passes behind the net to Lucas Reichel. Reichel's pass to the slot is deflected and bounces past Jesper Sellgren, but Josh Levo lets Michael Tepley coast past him into the slot where Tepley fires the loose puck past Lackey. 6-0 Ice Hogs, 3:40 left in the second. Josh Jacobs tries to step up and defend a pass in the neutral zone, but completely whiffs on it and sends the Ice Hogs on an odd man rush the other way. Brendan Peary floats a pass across Royal Road to DJ Busdecker, who taps it into the net past a sprawling Lackey. 7-0 Ice Hogs with 11:04 left in the third. Copy and paste off the ensuing center ice faceoff as Artem Serikov tries to step up and make a hit in the neutral zone and whiffs, springing the Ice Hogs on an odd man rush. Chad Yetman toe drags around Joey Keane and puts it on net. Lackey makes the initial save but loses sight of the rebound that just sits on the side of the net until Cameron Morrison skates by and pokes it in. 2-point conversion is good. 8-0 Ice Hogs with 10:51 left in the third. And mercifully, that would be it. Saturday. Oh, we are so not done. Saturday, the Wolves, eager to put Friday's game behind them, get on the board first in Iowa. Stefan Nosen recovers a loose puck at the faceoff dot in the Iowa zone and fires. Zane McIntyre makes a save, but kicks the rebound through the slot and out to the point to Josh Jacobs. Jacob goes D to D to Jesper Sellgren. Sellgren risks one from distance that Nason tips past McIntyre. 1-0 Wolves with 18:32 left in the first. Iowa strikes back as Nolan Stevens gains the Chicago blue line, pulls up, and finds Mitchell Chafee at the top of the circles as Stelio Mateos struggles to find his place in the defensive coverage. Chafee makes a drop pass for Joe Hicketts, and Hicketts risks one past Michael Lackey's blocker. Tie game at 1 with 14:14 left in the first. Andrew Poldarowski at the half wall passes to Joey Keane across the high slot, but he can't quite corral it. Keane recovers it at the boards and blindly flings it at the net. McIntyre makes the save, but the rebound goes out to the point. Max Lajoie recovers it and fires it on net. McIntyre makes the save, but the rebound goes to Sam Melitic, who bangs it home. 2-1 Wolves with 12:45 left in the second. On the power play, Joey Keane collects the puck in his own end and starts the double drop breakout with Smith and Poldarowski. Keane drops to Smith, who mishandles a bit, but Jack Drury is able to recover at the wall and makes a beautiful area pass to a streaking Andrew Poldarowski, who kicks the puck up to his stick, walks in on a breakaway, Deke's forehand, backhand, and tucks it just past the pad of McIntyre. 3-1 Wolves with 17:49 left in the second period. Off a routine chip out of the defensive zone by Kevin Churchman, Adam Beckman collects the puck and enters the Wolf zone. Jesper Sellgren gives him too much space, and Beckman rifles a wrist shot cleanly past Michael Lackney. Bar down, hands up. Cody McLeod barely touches the puck in the neutral zone, but gets credit for a primary assist anyway. 3-2 Wolves with 14:49 left to go in the second period. Kevin Churchman makes an awful turnover in the wild zone as Poldarowski gets a stick on the breakout pass, and Stefan Nason recovers it at the point. Nason passes to Militek at the faceoff dot. Militek holds, draws a defender a step or two towards him, then gives it back to Nason in the slot, and Nason fires a one-timer over the glove of McIntyre. 4-2 Wolves with 13:49 left in the second. The Wolves add to their lead as Spencer Smallman chips it out of the Wolves zone to the neutral zone. Dominic Bach races down the ice on a 2-on-1 with Ivan Lodnia against Joe Hicketts. Bach cuts to the slot and fires a wrister that goes just wide, but Lodnia jumps on the rebound off the back wall and chops it from below the goal line towards Zane McIntyre. It banks off Zanomac's leg pad and goes in. 5-2 Wolves with 8:21 left in the second. The Wolves complete the touchdown as Poldarowski works the puck from the half wall up the boards to the point. Max Lajoie sends it back down in the zone to Sam Militek, who curls off the wall. Militek passes to Poldarowski at the net front. Poldarowski has plenty of time to turn and fire as Brennan Miller botches the D-zone coverage, leaving him open. Poldarowski bangs it home. 6-2 Wolves with 5:43 left in the third, and that would be the final. 6-2 Wolves over the Wild. But we have a whole nother game still to recap goals from. Off a face-off, the Monsters win the draw back to Trey Fix-Wolanski. He shoots a wrister that clips Cole Fonstad in the arm at the hash marks and dribbles past Daniel Manella. A fluke goal for sure. 1-0 Monsters with 19:25 left in the first period. The Wolves strike back on the power play as Jack Drury works the puck up the boards to Joey Keane. Keane dishes it over the half wall to Poldarowski. Poldarowski turns and hits Drury in the bumper spot, and he redirects it over the shoulder of Jet Greaves, who never saw it. Tied at 1 with 7:12 left in the first. The Wolves get another as Spencer Smallman works the puck from CJ Smith to the point to Artem Sarakov. Dominic Bach sees Sarakov ready to shoot and charges at the net. Sarakov's wrist shot finds Bach for a tip past Greaves. 2-1 Wolves with 4:35 left in the first. Another fluke goal for the Monsters as Billy Sweezy dumps one in the Wolves zone. Manila goes out to play it, but it takes an unfortunate bounce off the glass and pops out right in front for Jake Gaudette to tap into an empty net. Tied at 2 with 17:27 left in the second. Back on the power play, the Monsters work the puck into the zone, and Kevin Stenlund recovers a rebound off a shot that hits the post. He battles along the wall and throws a blind backhand pass into the slot. Max Lajoie deflects it, but it accidentally tips it right to Brendan Gauntz at the faceoff dot. Gauntz hits Josh Dunn on the back door for a tap-in. 3-2 Monsters with 10:16 left in the second. The Wolves continue to do what they do, score early and dominate the third period. Max Lajoie gets a puck at the point in the Monster zone and just rims it around the boards. Stefan Nason taps it further around the boards to Sam Militek. Militek puts it right to Poldarowski at the top of the crease, and Poldarowski makes no mistake. Tie game at 3 with 19:36 left in the third period. After a candidate for dumbest penalty of the year by Thomas Šemić, the Wolves head back to the power play. Joey Keane collects the puck at the point and passes to Poldarowski on the half wall. Poldarowski goes across Royal Road to find CJ Smith. CJ Smith walks into the slot and patiently waits for Scott Harrington's slide. He then outweights Jet Greaves, who comes out too far to challenge, and CJ Smith just walks around him and tucks it in the near side as he skates behind the net. 4-3 Wolves with 10:07 left in the third. That would do it, though. Wolves over the Monsters 4-3. That was a lot of goals.
Wow. 8 goals in the first game, 8 goals total in the second game, 7 goals that you covered there in the third game. Whew. Let's get to our picks. Holy smokes. I predicted a Chicago sweep. I said they were going to continue on, get 15 in a row. Sean, you said that Chicago was going to get 2 victories this weekend over Rockford and Cleveland, but you thought that Iowa, Iowa, different I state. You thought that Iowa was going to get enough guys back in town to make the difference. I actually think they got a few more guys plucked before that game to the Minnesota Wild. But anyway, the model picked Chicago, the favorite, 58.4% over Rockford, 61% over Iowa, and 55.9% over Cleveland. And as we all predicted, sarcasm font, as we all predicted, Rockford just completely getting reinvigorated by the totally expected re-signing of Brandon Peary, who came in 8-0 shutout of the Chicago Wolves. I mean, Sean, this weekend feels... Go ahead.
Say, Brandon Peary, whose Rockford jersey is, hanging right below your face.
Yep. Right down there. Whoop. There we go. Whoop. I'm sorry. He was wearing number 73 this weekend, so it threw me off. I mean, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that Brandon Peary jersey right there. All right. Well, let's talk on the ice. Okay. Well, you've been talking on the ice. You've been covering all the goals, but this weekend feels like a tale of two Chicago Wolves teams as 0 people on the planet called an 8-0 win for the Rockford Ice Hogs on Friday. The Wolves got back to business the rest of the weekend, however, but let's start with that Ice Hogs game, as I've been alluding to here the past minute or so. Give us an autopsy here, because would you like to see a dead body? How did this happen, Sean?
In simple terms, those 20 days off really showed up on Friday. It was a real team effort by Chicago in not playing with intensity on defense, or in some cases, just not even playing defense. The Wolves were as sloppy could be in their own defensive end, with an unbelievable number of instances where guys were cheating up ice to get a rush chance going, abandoning their defensive zone assignments, and getting burned for it. The patient zero of this effort was Josh Jacobs. I mean, the number of times in which I was like, just jaw dropped of his just wanting to play offense instead of doing defensive things in the defensive zone was unbelievable. And we talked about playing with a goalie who doesn't belong in this level in Utica's preview, and how they should adapt with Merrick's mittens in net. The Wolves were in a similar situation on Friday. After we recorded our preview, Alex Lyon got called up by the Hurricanes and was getting an NHL start on Sunday. That left the Wolves to scramble for a netminder, and Michael Lackey was apparently the best they could do on short notice. Now, Michael Lackey is not an AHL caliber goaltender, but wow, if the Wolves didn't leave him out to dry from puck drop to final buzzer in that game. Like, yeah, did a couple of fluky ones go past him? Did one or two that a better goalie would have had go past him? Yes. Were 4 of them on the Wolves defense? Absolutely. Probably 5. This team as a whole on Friday just looked slow, unmotivated, and generally not prepared to play a professional hockey game that day. Andrew Poldarowski, CJ Smith, and Stefan Nason are the only 3 from the Wolves that really could say they gave a full 60-minute effort on Friday, because they were out there still trying to do their part to help this team win. And that was about it.
I mean, as the results indicate on Saturday and Sunday, this did not stay true for the rest of the weekend, did it?
By and large, no. They still played too fast and loose on defense for my liking, given that they had middling ECHLers at best in the net. But I thought both goalies played good games Saturday and Sunday. And yes, Michael Lackey left Saturday's game with an injury, but I have no idea where he got hurt, as the play right before he left was incredibly routine. It caught both the announcers kind of by surprise. I tried to rewind to find an instance in which, he got bumped or like took a weird turn, or I couldn't come up with anything. But another hurt goalie for the Wolves, because apparently the Chicago Wolves goalie is the modern defense against the dark arts professor. Still, the Wolves against the Wild look much sharper, much more ready to play than they did on Friday. And even Andrew Poldarowski in his post-game comments said that, like, for whatever reason, they couldn't get up to play Friday when the game was happening. It just felt like they were, passengers on a train watching it go, off the tracks, and couldn't, get it to go right. But that definitely did not stay true Saturday. They came out fired up, ready to go. Sunday's game to a lesser extent, but I also think Iowa made it a little easier on them in terms of getting ready to go, because Iowa was physical with them. There were a lot of post-whistle scrums. It's easier to get up for a team that is actively pissing you off when it's just you not being able to execute. Like, That's frustrating, but it's a different kind of frustrating. Like when a team is putting their smelly hockey glove in your face after the whistle, that motivates you in different ways than just your own personal failures, like just not being able to make passes or whatever. But Sunday's game against the Monsters was a better effort, but I still thought the Wolves were too sloppy on defense. They let up a lot of quality chances that were uncharacteristic and entirely preventable. And again, still kind of surprising that like they weren't trying to play lockdown defense given the goaltending that they had. Although the 3 goals the Monsters all had fluky elements to them, they had a lot of grade A chances that Manila stopped or that missed the net. Those would be concerning to me if I'm Coach Warsofsky and the staff going forward. I'm sure there is a big playlist of clips to be reviewed by the Wolves staff in that aspect, because there certainly were ones that I saw where just poor play by Josh Jacobs throughout the weekend, but more so on Friday than any of them, and a lot of just lackadaisical efforts by their forwards back checking or by being in the right spots in transition that contributed to a lot of the goals or chances against it across the weekend. And a lot of them were not just, oh, that's that player, he's an offense only kind of guy. It was not the effort you expected to see from a lot of their like middle six. All in all, though, if I'm Coach Warsofsky, I'm happy my team bounced back after that Friday drubbing. That's the response that they needed to bring. And I'm glad that he didn't have to, hopefully do too much to pull that out of them. But I'm also concerned by those defensive mistakes. And I'd take this week of practice to shore up on those. A lot of communication errors, a lot of guys leaving the defensive zone early, hoping to get a jump on a rush chance. Those are correctable. And like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of video clips they're reviewing over the weekend and this upcoming week to make sure they point out to those players, you can't be doing that stuff. You can't be cheating out of the zone every time the other team maybe kind of fumbles the puck.
On the offensive side of the puck, we talked about a guy by the name of Andrew Podorowski. You mentioned him a couple times in those game recaps. We asked if he was the MVP in the preview episode this season thus far. Sean, a weekend of close observation of Andrew Podorowski for you, and 6 points later on the weekend, he now has 40 total points on the season in 26 games played. Has your opinion shifted at all?
I mean, I still stand by my take that goalies are often overlooked in MVP races, and I don't think it's an open and shut case that Podorowski is the MVP to this point in the AHL, but it's certainly a case that is looking more and more closed. However, we still have a lot of hockey left to play here in this season.
That's why they play the games. Exactly.
But as a betting man, if you gave me plus 500 on an Andrew Podorowski MVP, I would be taking out loans to make that bet. I will say one thing though about Andrew Podorowski. It's absolutely shocking to me that he's 27 years old and has 4 NHL games to his resume, 2 of which were this season. While he lacks NHL foot speed, and he certainly has other tools at his disposal that can make up for that. Not every guy at the NHL can skate real good. He has high intensity, a high hockey IQ, playmaking vision, and decent hands in tight. He's never going to be in awards conversations at the NHL level, but he's definitely talented enough to find time as an 11 or 12 minute a night guy on an NHL team, given an actual chance. Not like all right, we'll give you 2 games and then if you gave him 20 games in the NHL to get comfortable, to find his groove, I think he could be a bottom 6 player in the NHL without too much trouble. I mean, there are definitely 10 NHL forwards I'd take Podorowski over right now. Mason Geertson's one of them. So is Ryan Reeves. That glow up being said, he definitely looked like at least the MVP of Chicago, as he was the only one you could point to and say, he played well in every game this weekend. Even in the 8-0 loss, Josh Levo and CJ Smith both hit posts on mostly wide open nets because they had gorgeous setups from Podorowski. I thought Stefan Nason looked good in the latter 2 games this weekend. He was clearly feeling the shame of Friday's loss and definitely came out Saturday and Sunday ready to go to work. Again, like I said, that's the mentality you want to see when you get, shamed like that on Friday. You want guys to be, lining up Saturday morning for the guy to open the rink so they can get in to go to work. And that's what you saw from Chicago more by and large over the course of the weekend. Is they felt that stink of that loss on them, and they went right back to work. And that's a hallmark of not just a good team, but a well-coached team, a team that has good veterans. And you saw them leading that, and Stefan Nason was part of that. I also thought the rotation of CJ Smith to his own line and Sam Militic on the Nason-Podorowski line was interesting. And it worked really well for Militic, and CJ Smith obviously did pretty well on his own. But I'm interested to see how they kind of manage that going forward, because that Smith, Nason, Podorowski line has had so much chemistry and done so much damage. It's interesting to see that they try to maybe spread that out a little bit more. I'd be curious to see if they ever split all three of them up and put them on separate lines and see if that doesn't work better overall for them, or if this is a sum of the parts is, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts kind of work with Nason and Podorowski.
And Sean, just to kind of wrap this up before we look forward a little bit for the Wolves, we spoke about teams, great teams, not just good teams in the AHL or in hockey in general, but great teams have the ability to win in a multitude of different ways. They will grind it out for those 1-goal wins, and they can blow teams out of the water as well. And that's why the Wolves had that 12-game winning streak. And that's why the Wolves have won 14 of their last 15 games, even though they got boat raced by Rockford 8-0. The way that they responded showed a lot of fortitude, a lot of gumption, and you just can't say enough about the character of this team. It's just amazing to me. And again, the more that we observe, the more that we break down the Chicago Wolves as a team and the individual players that make up the team, of course, the more and more I'm sold that these guys are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the Calder Cup playoffs. And again, I said it during the preview show. I will say it again here in the weekend recap. Do not be surprised in the slightest if you see these guys in the Western Conference final, or dare I say in the Calder Cup final.
I mean, I agree that they have to be one of the favorites at this point. I don't think they do betting odds for futures in the AHL, because the only degenerate person who would do that is me, who would be looking at those. But that's a story for another time. But at the same point, like the Wolves are a very good team. They're built very well. And, when they have a goaltender that's of the caliber of the league they play in net, they're going to get very good results. But I think the one thing I really want to see, if I had a wish list for the Calder Cup playoffs, it would be the Minnesota Wild get knocked out from the playoffs so that they can stock back up Iowa with its rightful talent. And I want to see a, best of 7 series, Chicago on Iowa, because I think that has the potential to be an instant classic. And that's from an analyst standpoint, I want to see best on best with both of those teams, because I think that is a very fun series to watch, because those are both talented, physical, capable teams when they're at the peak of their powers. And unfortunately, this weekend, we didn't get to see that matchup because Iowa is nowhere. Is it whatever the opposite is, the valley of their powers right now, as Minnesota has just taken anyone with a useful pulse from them right now. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Carolina's pulled some guys at times. Alex Lyon, at a very inconvenient moment for Chicago. But I think when those two rosters are full of talent, that hopefully will be a crash course we see in the Calder Cup playoffs, because damn, it'll be fun.
As good old JR used to say, and actually does still say, because he's still in the commentating booth to this day, it would be a good old slobber knocker. I would love to see that matchup in the Western Conference. If not, well, that would probably be the Central Division final, I'd imagine, depending on, where Iowa finishes. But hell, it could be a first-round matchup. Oh, my God, that would be so scary. Anyway.
I think I would prefer the first-round matchup.
Yeah?
Just those teams. That is going to be the healthiest those teams probably get throughout the entire playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hope first round, because I mean, I guess then you would have to have the Minnesota Wild not make the playoffs. And off the top of my head, that's probably not going to be the case. So we would need some real unfortunate things to happen in Minnesota in order for this fantasy to happen, which I'm sad about, because I like the Minnesota Wild. They're a fun team, but Yeah, I would want to see a first round series because I feel like that's the one in which both teams will be the healthiest. And I would rather see two healthy, fully powered teams go at it than two like teams that have all the guys on the roster, but half of them are broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, CC, looking forward, where are these guys? Where is Chicago going?
Well, you got to take stock of where you're at currently before you can look forward. That's my philosophy anyway. Currently, the Wolves are 22-5-2, 79.3% points percentage, just behind the Utica Comets. We talked about Utica still being the first team in the North Division. Perhaps a coincidence, but perhaps just a good old round of kismet that Utica is the first in the North. Chicago is the first in the Central Division. We covered both of them pretty extensively this episode and last. The Wolves will be hosting the currently third place team in the Central Division, the Grand Rapids Griffins, on Wednesday, January 12th, before bussing over to Des Moines and playing those Iowa Wild, fifth place currently in the Central Division. But man, if they get all that firepower back, probably not for long. But they are currently roster depleted there in Des Moines. But yeah, Chicago is slated to play Iowa Friday and Saturday, January 14th and 15th, and see if they can keep their hot streak going. 14 out of 15, not consecutive games won, but hell, that's still really, really good.
All right, well, we're going to take a break here, and after the break, we will get to Colorado and Tucson. If you're just here for the Chicago Wolves, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media where we do the memes. Those memes do not go out on every social media platform, so you should probably get on all three so you can see our Harley and me meme that just went out this afternoon. All of that can be found on our Linktree page, which is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills, run some ads. We will be right back. Stay tuned. And we are back from break, and we are here to talk about the best coast, the West Coast, the Pacific Division in the AHL. And we're going to be bringing back a friend we haven't seen on the program since April 2021, when he double dipped on episodes 27 and 28. He covers the Tucson Roadrunners for the Arizona Daily Star. Please welcome back to the program our old friend, Matt Damon. Wait, sorry, he's still in the green room. Brett Fera.
You do not look like Jimmy Kimmel.
Thankfully.
I have never sponsored a vomiting camel, so I feel all right about that.
Or a bowl game, apparently.
Or co-hosted the Man Show back on Comedy Central.
Oh, God.
If you want to really go back that far.
I'm pretty sure he's hoping no one does.
Right. If that happened now, he would not have a late night talk show more than likely.
That could not happen
now. No, absolutely not. Well, Brett, thanks again for coming on the show. Like Sean was saying, it has been, let's see, April. We're closing in on 9 months now that you've been on the show.
That weird, wacky, crazy season that I can't even figure out how to explain when I'm writing it. It's always the pandemic altered 2021 season, because my boss will not let me put 2020 2021 because no games were in 2020, and I'm like, yeah, but it makes sense to sort of, and he's like, no, it was the 2021 season. And so I'm so glad the calendar has shifted to 2022, because now I don't feel weird whenever I have to refer last season. And then so that whole thing that I can't even fathom happened, but it's good to see you guys again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. I kind of, it's kind of the same, like, do I put just 2021 because that's only the time when the season occurred, or do I put 2021 because that's technically the season it was? Yeah, it's just back and forth. But anyway.
So, CC, let's kick us off here. Tell me about some goals that happened on Saturday.
Yes. So Tucson, Colorado headed down to the Tucson Center there, the Convention Center, if you want to go with the full name, down there in Tucson, Arizona, Saturday at 7 p.m. And let's go over the goals. But first, since there was no goals in the first period, I figured there was plenty of action fighting wise. So I wanted to cover that real quick. 2 fights broke out between the Eagles and Roadrunners. First one, 6:29 to the first, Keaton Middleton and the day of professional tryout signee, Cedric Lacroix. from ECHL Norfolk, shoved back and forth at Tucson's blue line before Middleton threw some right hands, wrestled Lacroix down to the ground, and the refs called it after that. Later, after a big clean hit, I might add, to Matthias Michelli by Andreas England in Roadrunners territory, Chaz Redekop, about 3 minutes later, answered the receipt, I guess. I don't know. I'm never for fighting when it comes to clean hits like that and answering back. But Redekop challenged England to fisticuffs at center ice at 15:44 of the first. The England to Redekop punch ratio was about 2-1 before the ref stepped in after about 30 seconds. So, yeah, you definitely got some fighting action there in the first period. Second period is when the goal started. So Colorado's Shane Bowers got on the board just 1 minute and 59 seconds into the period. Cal Burke, with great puck possession, passed it parallel to the blue line to Jordan Gross. Gross wristed on net where Bowers is in front, corrals the rebound, 1 shot, 2 shot, puck flies over Josef Kozanash's right shoulder, hits the netting to make it 1-0 Colorado early on in the middle regulation frame. And yeah, no more goals in the second, but we jumped to the third period, and Brett and I and Sean were all talking about this before we went live. Tucson power play chance early in the third. Roadrunners centerman Jan Yannick brings the puck into Colorado's zone along the right wing. Eagles forward Cal Burke was pressuring him defensively as Yannick came into the low end of the faceoff dot. Stingy possession and a nifty toe drag to deke out Dennis Gilbert. Count it for Yannick. Pots the goal, delivers, make it a power play tally. All tied up 1-1, 5:20 into period number 3. The Roadrunners added yet another to the board just a minute and 16 seconds later, catching Colorado on a line change. The puck was lofted ahead to Boko Amama, utilized a screen from teammate Hudson Elenuk, and an unwilling Andreas England. Wristed the shot by Eustace Ananen at 6:36 of period number 3. After just 4 shots on goal on this point, Tucson really clamped down in the third period when it came to their defense. Colorado's Jean-Luc Foudy found all 5 Tucson skaters drawn to the right wing faceoff circle. So what did Foudy do? He found a wide open Dylan Sekira who wristed a goal past Kozanash. 15:29 in the third period, less than 5 minutes left, ties the game back up 2-2. Game goes to overtime. We don't have any goals there. Only Martin Count faking a shot, going backhand to forehand past Kozanash's left hand, stick side, tallies a marker in the shootout, the only marker in the shootout, gives Colorado the 3-2 victory and the second winner's point. Tucson, after going down 1-0 in that first period, coming back, pushing the game to overtime, and there you have it, 3-2 shootout win for the Colorado Eagles. And Brett, we're going to yield the floor to you for a little bit. In this first game on Saturday, tell us what you noticed from the Roadrunners, both positive and negative.
I think the fact that you had Boko Imama scoring while not being one of those guys involved in the fisticuffs in the first period is actually a big deal. We talked to him post game, and he shared that, there's a little bit of juice for him when that happens, because usually he's the guy that's expected, even though I agree with your point about the Redekop England fight, that it was after a clean hit. And that is questionable of whether or not that's a necessity at that point. But Michelli's the golden child at this point, the rookie, the 21-year-old, and leading the team in every potential scoring category. But so Imama coming through and doing that, he scored again on Sunday. I know we're going to get to that, but absolutely great for the Roadrunners to see him getting going on the offensive end because of what he brings defensively. And on the other side of things, well, let me say one more. Jan Yannick, we had mentioned, had that first goal. He's got 9 points in his last 10 games, 4 goals over that span. So absolutely coming into his own as really the offensive leader of this team. Even with Michelli's presence, he has been more, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say stable, but consistent and also playing a full 200-foot game. Yannick plays an amazing power forward component to his game, and he's not as big as he plays. He's a smaller guy, but so him getting him on the board there too. Michelli looks slow on Saturday. That's an unscientific, non-expert opinion from me, but he looked slow, and part of that is that he got his first NHL call up 2 weeks ago to the Arizona Coyotes, was supposed to get in the game. They tested him, COVID protocols, he sits. He gets sent back to Tucson. Still, I don't know. I do not have confirmation if it was a new test or if it was a lingering 10-day thing or something, but he could not actually play on Wednesday, even though he was reassigned on Tuesday late. He was going to miss Tuesday's game no matter what, but he was not in the lineup on Wednesday against Stockton because of the same COVID protocols. And again, I might just be seeing things, but he looked slow. He looked slow in the shootout. He didn't have that jump in his step. And so I think while it's important that the Roadrunners got a point for their sake, by getting contributions from other guys, I think that hurt them in both the first 3 periods and overtime, and then obviously in the shootout. That their so-called best player on this season, wasn't at full strength, and then coming for his first game in about 3.5, 4 weeks. On the other side, I thought a major breakdown by Tucson. You had mentioned it on the Sakura goal. It wasn't just Foudy getting that puck out of that bunch on I guess it was the left side. So it would have been for those who care geographically, the southwest corner of the rink. It wasn't just that there was that mass of bodies there. It was that Sakura was at the point, and I missed it. And you can't tell in the recap whether he was a transition off the bench or he was playing the point at that point, but he comes and just breaks toward the net, maybe a second and a half before the puck ever squirted loose. So just incredible presence for him to see that was going to open up. And he was sitting in front of Kozanash with, 5 feet in front of him, maybe more than that, but it sure looked that tight and absolutely just buried it. One that he would probably bury, 10 times out of 10 or 9 times out of 10. So I only bring that one play up because obviously it was the tying goal, which allowed Colorado not just a point, but to get to the situation to earn 2, but it also keeps the Roadrunners from a point. And we'll probably talk about this more as we talk about Sunday's game, but this dead tight Pacific Division from the 4th position on down, every point really is going to matter. It's as cliche as it gets, but it really is. And Tucson needed both those points on Saturday and didn't get them, obviously.
All right, Cece, we've heard Brett's side of the story with Tucson. Tell us what you saw with the Eagles and them finally exercising their split weekend demons.
Well, you want me to go into Saturday a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. I wasn't prepared for that. But yeah, I mean, Saturday, the Eagles, this is normally a game that, split decisions, 7 out of 9 2-game sets over weekends or 3 days. 7 out of 9, the Eagles have split. So they win a game, they lose a game. So they are just comedy and tragedy. We call Tucson Jekyll and Hyde, so we can't use that.
Yeah,
but
almost identical to Tucson though on that front. By the way, it isn't win 2, lose 2. It's win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, lose 1, win 1. I mean, it's almost the exact same story all year for both teams. Yeah,
and so Colorado. This is the type of game that Colorado would lose normally. They would put up 4, 5, 6 goals. Later on. Whatever game that they decide to win, that's the one that they score in, a grip of goals like that. This is the game that Colorado would normally drop. They would allow 3 goals in a row, 4 goals in a row, and then they'd end up losing, 5-1, 5-2, but they didn't. They allowed those 2 goals within, less than 90 seconds to, Imama and Yannick, but they didn't crumble. And that's the thing that I kind of pointed out to Sean when we had our kind of weekend preview episode in episode number 73, is that they need to instill confidence in Aunanen because, he's a rookie goaltender. He's still young, coming over from Finland, getting used to the North American game. And he needs to string together some wins. Colorado needs to build some confidence and get some wins. Now they're on a 3-game win streak. Aunanen, he would get rattled in past games after letting in, 2 goals in a row, 3 goals in a row, and in a short amount of time like that. But he didn't, and he didn't let another goal in all night long. And I think that's a crucial element that Colorado's been missing. I mean, hell, they half of their decor in the Iowa series was ECHLers from the Utah Grizzlies. So to get Andreas England back, to get Roland McCune back, to get Dennis Gilbert back. I mean, Brett, you probably saw that sequence where Dennis Gilbert blocked 3 shots and he was all gimped up after that. Mm-hmm. To have him back and to have him put in a hell of an effort on the defensive side of the puck. I mean, I could gush and go on and on about this game, but I mean,
Can I add
go
something
ahead
to what you're saying?
Absolutely.
It's really funny because everything you're describing, there is a parallel to Tucson. I know we just said that on the overall, weekend split situation, but this is the game Tucson would normally win, and it's the exact opposite of what you said about Colorado. This is the game where even though they don't normally come from behind to score in bunches, the fastest 2 goals mentality doesn't necessarily benefit Tucson all that often. As soon as they got that second goal and it's 7 minutes into the third period, and then it's 8 minutes in, and then it's 10 minutes in, and it's 12 minutes in, a couple of us are looking at each other like, okay, this is the one they're going to win. What's going to happen tomorrow? And so the problem for Tucson on that front, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but they didn't win this one, even though they got a point. And then Sunday happened exactly how it would normally happen for both teams. So I think that, to your point about Colorado being on a 3-game win streak and giving Noonan some confidence by doing that, I think this is a shell shock situation for Tucson. I'm not saying they are. I don't want to act like I'm inside their heads, but 3 more games this week, 2 at San Jose that, San Jose, as Sean projected and before we went live, is still the last place team in the Pacific Division. And then Stockton on Saturday, who for whatever reason Tucson has played really well. Tucson needs to win 2 out of 3 games this week. Otherwise they are going to be in trouble, because they really blew this one, not because they were down 1-0 for the first 45 minutes, but because they stole a lead, had it for another 11 minutes and let it get out of their grasp. Same thing you said about Noonan. I think the most important piece of Saturday, even in a loss, was Josef Kozenash and him being able to provide solid backup play, for lack of a better word, to Ivan Prosvetov, who I think has been relatively pedestrian in the last month or so. He's had moments of brilliance, and that's why he's been pedestrian, because it's not consistent 1 or 2 goals, 925 save percentage. It's 5 goals let up, shutout, or 1 goal on 50 shots the next night. And it's tough. Even though he faced a lot of shots on Sunday, he didn't look sharp. And so having Kozenash be able to come in, because they had signed Zane McIntyre, who's had a really good AHL career, and he had sort of supplanted Kozenash, who is on an NHL deal, as the number 2, and Kozenash kind of sat for almost a month. And the Iowa Wild came calling a week ago and said, hey, or the Minnesota Wild said, we want to sign Zane McIntyre to an NHL deal. Will you release him? And they did, and they gave up a defenseman for him, and player to be named later type thing. But so Kozenash had to establish himself, and he absolutely played better than Prosvetov this week. Prosvetov got yanked on Wednesday. Kozenash stopped 12 shots in a row, and then played really well even in the loss this week. I mean, I don't look at a shootout as a goaltender's loss. It is what it is. It was a 2-2 game that he and Noonan played really well both in. So
I think like that's new for Kozenash for most of the season. I mean,
he was bad early, like really bad early.
Yeah, I remember his spot on my chart earlier in the season, because it was just like, wow, could we at least like either play him or dump him so that I can fix my axes to not have to include this like tiny little blip way down in the corner there. But I mean, he's been, since the last 3 games, Josef Kozenash, 2 shutouts and a 949 save effort. Like, that's a lot better. That's everything you could be asking for from a goalie. Those 2
and a goalie who's got what 15 NHL games and has had some pretty decent AHL seasons. So he has a better track record than Prosvetov does, and so it's interesting to me to see how he was able to not only spot him but come in and play really well in what's got to be a hard situation. I mean, not just because of COVID canceling games, but he literally hadn't started a game, I think, since November 12th. So, you're going close to 2 months, and that's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would say Kozenash had successful AHL seasons. He had 1 good one with the Barracuda, and then 2 bad ones with the Barracuda.
Okay.
And part of that I don't necessarily put on him, because I remember those 1920 and 2021 Barracuda teams, and they were bad. It's almost like they should have gotten rid of the coach or whatever, but that's a story for another time. But
that didn't happen that's not happening with San Jose.
Man has a contract for life, and it's ridiculous. But the Roadrunners being able to have him as a steadying force this weekend was definitely a plot twist for me. Is I've still thought, Prosvetov has not had great performances down the stretch. There have been a lot of kind of C+ in there, but I remember we said in the preview, like, don't play Kozenash. That's like, I know what that looks like at this point, and he did a good job shutting me up.
Well, and it's interesting to me that they decided to play him Saturday instead of Sunday. I mean, I would have thought, they played Prosvetov on Tuesday. He had a win against Stockton, played well. Not great, but obviously good enough to win against the best team in the division, second best team in the league. And then got shelled on Wednesday and they pulled him. And so then you're coming out Saturday, and that's still 2.5 days of rest. So I'm surprised they didn't start Prosvetov on Saturday. So it was an interesting plot twist from Jay Verity and the coaching staff to kind of mix that up. But then same result, Prosvetov comes out and he again faced 48 shots, but he wasn't great on Sunday. I mean, granted, a couple of them were tips, multiple tips on one of the goals, I think, and but still, I mean, he's a big guy that takes up almost the whole net. There's got to be a chance when you can't you gotta make one or two of those big saves to keep your team in it and not fall down 5-1. It's not his fault, but it's his responsibility.
Speaking of Sunday's goals, Cece, let's hear about them. Tell me about the goals that were scored on Sunday.
All right. Sunday's matchup had 8 goals total instead of just 4 and the shootout tally like Saturday's game. So let's get to it. First period, Magna flips the puck into the Tucson zone to Foodie. Sekura with him on a 2-on-1. So Foodie passes Royal Road to the younger of the Sekura brothers for the easy goal pass, Ivan Prosvetov. 1-0 Eagles at 4:27 of the first. Tucson finds himself on the power play 10 minutes of game time later. It's Matthias. Is it Matthias or Matthias?
I think it's Matthias.
Matthias. Okay. Matthias Michelli. Matthias Michelli makes Colorado pay, as he's done to many teams this year. A wrister from the right wing faceoff dot gets by Annunen. Now a 1-1 tie game at 15:04 of the first. Before the period ends, Kiefer Sherwood finds Justin Barron cross eyes for a one-timer score to bump the Eagles up 2-1 at 17:45 of period number 1. Let's move on to the second. The Eagles start to catch fire. Ryan Wagner lobs a pass to Bocage, Alex Bocage in front, with Bocage tooling it wide with the puck behind the net. Andreas Vingerly scoops the puck up, goes in for a wraparound goal at 4:52 of the second period. Eagles continue their scoring momentum. Less than 2.5 minutes of game time later, Martin Kaut fires a shot on goal from the high slot, which wires through the sticks and into the net for a score. Make that 4-1 Eagles at 7:25 in the second segment of play. Colorado decides to add another one, this time on the power play, as Sekura makes a short one-timer pass to Maltsev. The shot deflected up after making contact with Prosvetov, and Jason Magna guided it in with his stick at 17:02 of the second. Make it 5-1 Colorado. Tucson did answer before the period wrapped up as Michael Carcone wrists one by Annunen on the right wing side and on the power play as well. That's the second power play goal of the night. Eagles PK. We'll get to that here in a second. But that goal tallied with just 9 seconds left in period number 2. Period 3 had just 1 goal, and that came from the Roadrunners. Just about halfway through the frame, Boko Imama, like you mentioned earlier, Brett, fired a shot after collecting the loose puck, going 5-hole on Annunen. The puck trickled from the safety of Aunanen's possession and into the back of the net, giving Imama his second goal in as many nights to make it 5-3. Colorado at 9:41 of the third. And that, my friends, will be your final score as Colorado takes the weekend in Tucson. And Sean, we did decide to pick this game before in our weekend preview, as we often do, and let our analytics model weigh in as well. So if you would tell Brett what we thought before we entered the weekend.
Well, the model gave Colorado a 54.8% favorite in both games. So the model was the smart one. I went Team Jekyll and Hyde here and went Tucson Saturday, Colorado Sunday. CC picked a Colorado sweep, taking a rare sweep for CC. So I am the only one left holding the bag here, as I thought you would see, I guess, some Dr. Jekyll is the correct one for Tucson somewhere, and them getting on the board. But
I always get that mixed up, by the way. Which one's the good one and which one's the bad one? I should know this because I've read it and watched the movies. Yeah.
Mr. Hyde is like the monster. Dr. Jekyll is like the respected scientist. So it kind of doesn't make a great translation perfectly as a metaphor to hockey, because you would think you would want kind of the wild, aggressive one.
That's a good point.
But I still think of it as good and bad Jekyll and Hyde. So I was thinking of Dr. Jekyll appearance on Saturday for Tucson, and that did not go according to plan. Brett Matthias McKelly has 23 points in 23 games so far this season. He's slowly carving out a spot in the 21-22 AHL Rookie of the Year conversation, a conversation we do not have on our award show, but still exists outside of our space. What's it been like watching this kid ascend and take his place among the Peltier, Paterka, Rossi, and Quinn members of the Young Guns to watch this season? And are there any others you want to mention apart from Maselli?
Any other rookies?
Yeah.
No, I mean, he's the one. I mean, there's a couple of second-year players, which I know that's a lot of guys around the league, but there's a couple that have really taken a jump this year. But Michelli's interesting because he's not especially big. He's listed probably bigger than he really is. He's not ridiculously fast, even though I was mentioning that he looked a step slow on Saturday, but very good hands, still learning to play good defensive hockey, but plays a lot of minutes. I mean, we obviously don't get minute lists out of the AHL like the NHL clubs do, but I mean, is that you wanting
I'm
it?
wishing
One day.
They're keeping him. I mean, that's the part
they absolutely are keeping them.
Yeah,
they're keeping all kinds of data they don't share for dumb reasons, but that's a story for another time.
Playing a ton of minutes. I mean, he only turned 21. I think he turned 21 on opening night. So, I mean, still very young, but also has 2 full professional seasons under his belt, playing in a relatively decent league in Liga in Finland on teams with, he was talking to me about it. The other one, I guess there is one other rookie, JJ Mosier. He's not currently with the Roadrunners. He's up with the Coyotes. Defenseman. He's been great too. More polished. So even though a defenseman, he's not scoring to the same heights as Michelli, it was more, and they had more need obviously for defensemen up there. But Mosier was the one who actually said this, and he one day, and he talked about it, and Michelli sort of echoed it, even though he's a lot quieter, was that, when you're playing, yes, it's a transition going from a high level international league. I think Mosier was in the highest Swiss league, and Michelli obviously in Finland. It's a transition coming to the US. It's a different speed. It's a different style of play. But the one thing that they gained was sort of that adulting component of being professionals at 19, 20 years old and playing with guys that are 37, 38, 40 years old with three kids and a wife and, a divorce and a second house and, all these things that, these guys are there because it's their livelihood and playing in these international leagues. And so getting to be in a locker room next to guys who have been doing this a while and who can impart life wisdom on them that may not even have anything to do with hockey. I think the most impressive thing about Michelli and Mosier is they came over and there was no learning curve. I'm not saying they don't have things to learn, but there was no break-in period where, okay, we're going to put them on the 4th line or 3rd line and give them 10, 12 minutes. It was, these guys are ready to go. They're going to play and boom, they're scoring goals from, or making good plays from day one. So that's been probably the most interesting. I say this out of respect for Michelli. This is not meant to be a dig. I haven't talked to him much because he doesn't say much, so when we're asking to talk to players post game or doing features, there isn't, he's very quiet, very reserved and almost robotic, but I think that's why he's good. So there isn't a lot of other stuff with him. He's not one of these guys that's going, and even though I understand why they do that, he's not one of these guys going and begging for assists post game and stuff like that. It's a very straightforward, if you were to take his pads off and notice there's some screws on his back because he's a robot that gets tinkered, it wouldn't shock me. So I think that's actually a compliment to him though, because he does everything the same way just about every day.
Kind of reminds me of Tim Duncan a little bit back in the San Antonio Spurs day. It's just stoic, one of the best in the game, but couldn't get under his skin for the life.
And I don't want to make that sound like Michelli's not interesting. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure he's an interesting kid. We just haven't gotten much out of him yet because it's very specific to hockey. It's very much repeating the talking points from the coaching staff. He's playing the part really well.
Well, I mean, still there's always, and I think of this too, every time, when we talk about like the younger guys from Europe coming over, is how much of a culture shock it is if you've never lived here full time, especially in a place like Tucson, which is, I mean, I don't want to trash Tucson because I've never been there myself. It might be fantastic, but like if he was playing in Lehigh Valley, which is right outside Philly, or
Providence,
like those are different towns in America, and they're even sending one person from that area to Tucson is a culture shock. But to come to a place where it's like, if his English isn't that strong, and I have never spoken to the man. I have no idea what his vocabulary looks like. But like that's also a challenge too of just having to think through things to say because you don't process the language at the speed you process, hockey. But not only that, of just trying to be able to kind of find your groove, find a friend group.
Right.
Like most of the people you've known and grown up with are on the other side of the world 6 hours in the past. Like that's definitely an environment that endears itself to putting your head down, shutting up, and just going to work. So
Right.
I'm sure he has interesting hobbies or fun things, but like it's probably just such a focus on what you're here to do, and you'll figure the rest out later. So
the funniest thing he did was right when he started getting hot, and so we were asking to talk to him a couple of games, me and other media members, and so it's just a weird setup. I won't get too deep into it, but it's a strange setup where their locker room is here, and there's a big open atrium area, and they have to walk across it to get to the workout area, and they're passing the media area the whole way. And so it's easy on the media personnel. Adrian Denny, who's the play-by-play guy for the Roadrunners and runs all the media, is wonderful. And he can kind of camp out and have, 6 sets of eyes in his head because he knows which guys are coming and going and grab guys and stuff. And it was really funny. We got Michelli one night, we got him the next night, and there was another game like 3 days later. We weren't asking for him, but he just walked to the podium because he's like, this is what I do now. So like that muscle memory. And then and so we talked to him anyway, but he wasn't actually on the list. So it was pretty great. And I'm not saying that to pick on him. It was just funny because he was just like, all right, after games now, this is what I do. And so I think if I remember right, this was very early in the season, right after he had a hat trick in like his 3rd game or something like that. So it's just funny. Like you get the muscle memory out of him to do that. And he, I also can't imagine, a young kid away from home, and no matter what his beliefs are on what's going on or whatever, I don't think, and I'm not trying to project, I don't know, but I do think he actually had COVID when he was missing some time over the last couple of weeks. And so that's got to be hard too. You're a professional athlete at the height of your game. And even if you're vaccinated, boosted, I don't know where they're at, but whatever they are, who knows how it affects people differently. And so that there's got to be a mental component of that too. And so I think the fact that I had mentioned he was pretty slow on Saturday, he looked a lot more seasoned on Sunday.
And I think a lot of that, we saw a lot of teams off of long layoffs come to play their, first games this weekend. Utica, Chicago, and as we talked about earlier, both of those teams very much showed that they had not played a professional hockey game in almost a month because they looked incredibly sloppy and slow in a lot of parts of that game, especially for him. Like not just, having to maybe be in isolation for COVID protocols or possibly having COVID and having symptoms, but on that, getting your call up, thinking that this is your moment to make an NHL debut and then to get shut down.
That's a great point.
Set back. Like that sucks a whole lot just on its own.
Yep.
Not to mention tacking on, things on top of that, like that blows.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But let's take this moment here to spin it back to CC. CC, your turn. Tell me about some Eagles players you noticed over the weekend.
Well, first and foremost, Sean, I know you and I have talked about him for a number of episodes whenever the Eagles have come up. Jean-Luc Foudy. We brought up how he needed to step up. And, 9 points in 10 games later, the sophomore to the AHL has contributed a goal and 8 assists. He's really becoming a good, solid middle 6 playmaker for the Colorado Eagles. Now, he didn't play in that year-end series against Iowa, but in the last 10 games he has played in, he's helped Colorado achieve a 6-3-1 record. So that's, if you're getting on the score sheet and helping your team, 2/3 of the time get in the win column, I don't think that's bad at all, or at least 60%. That assist to Sekera in the first game, it really showcased some offensive awareness. Like Brett said, Dylan Sekera, as good of a player as he is, they both have really good chemistry. Like to put Jason Megna, Dylan Sekera, and Jean-Luc Foudy on a forward line, like it's amazing the chemistry that happens when the Colorado Avalanche are healthy and they're not cherry picking, the top guys from the AHL. And yeah, you've got a Colorado team where, some of the forward lines, let me see here. I've got it in my notes, but the forward lines for the Eagles are just kind of, oh goodness. Yeah. Can
I add a little stat while you're looking at it?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Five Colorado players with 2 points on Sunday. So no one broke out in a 5-goal game. No one broke out for 3 or 4 points. 5 different guys with 2 points. You add Foodie to that, who had a point on Saturday, and you had 6 guys with multiple point weekends. I mean, I think that's a pretty strong telling. I mean, it's only one weekend, but to me, who doesn't see them every day, like that's a lot of depth. That's a lot of depth right there.
It is, yeah. And the fact that you can put these lines together, like these are your top 3 lines: Maltsev, Couch, Sherwood, Bowers, Ronta, and Cal Burke, Magna, Foodie, and Sakura. There you go. I had them all written down because, the lines get shuffled and everything. But yeah, they definitely spread the wealth. Like that's something I noticed from Sunday's game as well. It's like there wasn't one guy that, just far and away contributed 3, 4, 5 points on the score sheet. It was definitely a team effort, and depth is definitely something that has returned to the Colorado Eagles.
Well, and you got the Justin Barons, who had 2 points on Sunday, and Jordan Gross had an assist Saturday. He's been great. He's a former Roadrunner, and we know him well down here. I mean, there's a lot of depth across the board for that team. So to your point on the Jekyll and Hyde, as an outsider just watching them, I'm surprised they don't have a better record than they do.
Welcome to the club.
But maybe this is the starting point.
I'm the treasurer. Welcome to the club of why aren't this Eagles team better? Like we thought in the preseason, like this is going to be a contender in the division, and not to say that they're not a decent team, but they are not in the upper class of the Pacific Division. They are very much in the like meh class of the Pacific, where it's like on any given night, any one of Tucson, Colorado, maybe Bakersfield and Abbotsford can show up with a good roster and just plow through a team. But more often than not, it seems like they, trip over their own 2 feet.
I got to tell you, though, this team is better than any of those. And I think Tucson is better than the model indicates. And I don't say that out loud too much to you guys because I don't want to sound like a homer. But at the same time, I think Colorado, the eye test is significantly better than these. And so with 61% of the season, I guess they have less because they played more games. I was thinking of Tucson's number, but with 55% of the season left, they may not get into that top 2, but everyone and their brother's making the playoffs. So they're going to hurt someone if they can keep it together and do what they've did this weekend and the last 3 games and so on. I know that's how it always is when a team's good, is can they continue it? But they have the pieces. They absolutely have the pieces. As somebody who hasn't really seen them until this weekend, I don't remember them from the last time these teams played, but they, that's a good team.
Well, and Brett, just to kind of wrap up, and we'll close out here pretty soon, so you can, we'll let you go so you can go on to your other endeavors that you got going on this evening. But the problem with the Eagles, Brett, is their special teams. Like they are in the bottom third in both power play and penalty kill. I think like 26th or 27th in both. And it was on display this weekend. The Eagles only went 1 for 9 on the power play. Yeah. They allowed 3 power play goals on 7 chances from Tucson. So you have an 11.1% conversion rate and a 57.1% kill rate. I mean, those are god-awful statistics that are just haunting the Eagles. And a lot of that has to do with letting assistant coach Brett Clark go because of COVID-19 protocols and not adhering to them. Not in official news, but through the grapevine and everything, Brett Clark was let go from the Eagles. He was a big part in their special teams being top 10 last season, and I use that term loosely. But you bring in Tim Branham from the Utah Grizzlies, 9-year ECHL head coach coming into the AHL level, trying to adjust the special teams, and it's been growing pains for sure with Branham coming in, and it's on paper. This team, this special teams, or at least the power play units, look good. It's something that Sean loves. 4 forwards, 1 defenseman. Maltsev, Magna, Sherwood, Kaut, Jordan Gross, tied for the leading scoring defenseman. Now that Scott Perunovich isn't in the league currently, but yeah, Jordan Gross having a great season. I don't think anybody could predict that he would be one of the best offensive producing defensemen in the AHL this year. Bowers, Sakura, Foodie, Barron, and Bocage on the second power play unit. It's like that is depth, that is stacked, and it should have more points on the man advantage than it does. And that's really all I've got to say about that. Is their special teams is lacking, and granted they mustered up the courage and the gumption to win the weekend and to sweep it. But if they don't shore that power play and that penalty kill up, it's really going to come back to bite them in the ass come the postseason.
Last thing on that same topic for Tucson on the other side, I think that's actually probably one of what has to be the more disappointing parts of the last 4 games in particular. You know, you beat Stockton at home. They're the only team, Tucson's the only team to beat Stockton 3 times this year. Granted, 2 of them came after regulation. And I think they're the only team to beat Stockton twice, and they've beaten them 3 times, but they've also played them more than anyone else. So there's some, correlation with that. But then you get beat bad on Wednesday, and then what happened against Colorado this weekend over their last 5 games. So the 4 this week, and then 1 dating back to December 18th, I think, against Ontario. I think Tucson's 17 of their last 18 on the penalty kill, and about 30% on the power play. Both numbers that extrapolated over a whole season would be leading the league in both categories. Now that doesn't happen, obviously, but so to only be 2-2-1 over that span, I think is disappointing. And it's the exact problem with what's been going on all year, giving up early goals and not being able to match, and then not being able to score in bunches. We were saying it before we went live today. Tucson has this weird penchant in sort of the opposite Jekyll and Hyde mode of Colorado to win the close game that they'll win, like they won 2-1 against Stockton. They more than likely would have won the Saturday game, like we were saying earlier, and then get beat 5-1 the next day. And so their goal differential is out of whack, all that stuff. But they have been able to play pretty well in the special teams of late. And if that can continue, obviously, I think they're going to be better than a 500 team. But can that continue? That's the real question. And the last piece of this, and we haven't talked about this, but the real problem with the Roadrunners is up in Glendale. The Coyotes are going to continue to raid the Roadrunners at times. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind Michelli is up with the Coyotes at some point. Same thing with Victor Soderstrom, who's got 8 points in his last 9 games. Jan Yannick, who has 9 in his last 10. These guys will all be getting call-ups at some point. And so,
but there is good news coming, though. Arizona is going to continue to, pilfer kids and see what they have out of them at the NHL level and kind of see if they can throw them against the wall and make them stick. But at the same point, too, they are going to be able to stock Tucson pretty healthily in the next couple of years, as they have 3, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14 picks in the next 3 years in the first 2 rounds alone. That's a lot. You're only
so here's the question with that. When you look at Michelli, Mosier's already up there. He was only drafted this year in June. I mean, he's barely been attached to North America, and now he's up at the NHL level as a regular. If you look at the 2 of them, if you look at Yannick, you look at Soderstrom, Barrett Hayton, who's playing better but not playing well offensively at the NHL level. He's doing a lot on the defensive end and winning faceoffs and those things. But the question I have is, are these guys the collateral damage for those 12 first and second round picks the next 2 years? Because realistically, you wouldn't want Michelli a regular midway through this season. You wouldn't want Mosier a regular already. You'd want them here as sophomores next year, where in their 3rd season of AHL play, Soderstrom and Yannick and Hayton to some degree, but probably not, are starting to look like NHL players, get called up midseason and stick. But that would have been next year. And so the exact problem that the Coyotes have had in burning through young prospects, it has me wondering if the same thing's going to happen to the current group to get to the next group. The reason I say all that, and this is really stupid, but it's true, they need players next season. The Coyotes do. So are they going to go with more of the Jay Beagles and so on, or are they going to go with these guys that they're developing down here? So you're right. You're totally right. Tucson's going to be fine in the grand scheme of things, but these players I worry about. I not because, for any reason other than journalistically, I wonder if they're going to have the opportunity to keep developing, because that's what they really need to be doing, obviously.
I mean,
to your point there about Arizona's going to have a lot of empty roster spots. They have 6 players currently signed for 22-23. That's it. All of the rest of them are on expiring contracts. And I'm pretty sure that the Coyotes have general patent visions of things for how the next few seasons are going to go in rebuilding. So I think they're probably going to end up bringing up a lot of those guys to play games to those levels, but like that's too many spots. That the roster spot to Ute ratio is not great there, and some of them are going to have to stick into the AHL, and that's what they should do. Like smart developing teams like the Ducks will just look at prospects and be like, you're here the entire year. Well, don't focus about trying to get my attention or make the NHL. Focus on getting better. Those
you can look at other
smart
sports too. I mean, I forget the sign stealing stuff, but the Houston Astros, there's a reason Sports Illustrated put them on the cover in, 2013, 2012. They're the worst team in baseball. And it was like, by this year, by 2019, the Houston Astros will win the World Series. Here's how. And it was basically them outlining exactly this plan where they were not going to rush the George Springers and these guys who were going to be the core of a championship team. And sure enough, they did it right. They lost. They didn't have fans in the seats. They struggled. The only difference is that, and it's ironic that it's Houston I'm talking about, is that they weren't an NHL team that probably is without a home going into next season. So I don't know how much you guys have followed that, but Glendale is going to lock the doors. So to what degree are they playing in a barn that hasn't seen hockey in 20 years?
Tempe's up in the air. I just saw that.
Tempe's up in the air, which look, and I have a relationship from a journalistic standpoint and a working relationship because I do color on the TV broadcast. I host a radio show with Adrian Denny, the gentleman I mentioned before, but I have to balance both of these. Like I have to question as a journalist, are the Roadrunners here 3 years from now? Because for the same point, that if the Coyotes can't figure this out, and that's obviously the 11-year-old question, they're not going to keep the Roadrunners here. And so the questions have to start mounting on that front too. And that's a whole different story from what we're talking about assigning players here and stuff. But it's a tough situation. But to your point, Sean, you're 100% right. I think, and it's not just selfish because I like watching interesting things happen in front of me in terms of, a potentially good team in the Pacific Division. But they should be letting these guys cook down here. Even if it means going out and signing again, and this is no knock on NHL veterans that have been doing it a while, but your Shane Gosebieres and Jay Beagles and so on, like that's the way they have to do it.
I mean, there is a laundry list of bad contracts in the NHL that a rich team is looking to get rid of. Like,
pick up more draft picks.
Yeah, like if you think the LA Kings want years 5 through 8 of that Drew Doughty contract, you are incorrect by a quite large factor. They want to get rid of that contract for any price at some point, because that is going to outlive their competitive window. And that's bad. The same can be true of a million contracts that Vancouver has signed over the last couple of years, a couple of which the Yotes already took on. Like they have definitely a place to fill that roster with, the cast-offs of other of overpaid contracts galore, and keep guys like Michelli and Barrett Hayton to some extent, but even oh my God, I can't think of his name, the British kid, Liam Kirk. Yeah, Liam Kirk, who I'm assuming will have 2 working knees next season. Mm-hmm. He's going to probably need a place to play, and he's not ready for the Coyotes, especially at the fire wagon level of hockey that they play. He needs a little more structure and a little more competitive play around him.
The other one's Ben McCartney, who's here, who, again, another guy who no one would have ever predicted, boom, NHL call up a week and a half into his AHL career. Like, let this guy germinate. He's a 3 or 4 year AHL player, kind of like a Jordan Gross, who next year, Jordan Gross probably is an NHL defenseman, a regular one, not just going to spend an entire season on the taxi squad like he did last year with Arizona.
Right. Yep. So Brett, we've kept you here a little past.
No, that's okay. We're good.
Okay. I just didn't want to have you rush out of here or anything like that. So let's finish up here. We'll look forward to Colorado and Tucson. Where do both teams go from here, Sean? If you would encapsulate what the Eagles and Roadrunners have to look forward to next weekend and beyond.
So the Eagles get to meet some Central Division teams as they have Milwaukee and Iowa in weekend series on the horizon. The Admirals have started to right the ship and are actually pushing in the correct direction in the Death Division. But the Wild have been stripped bare by taxi squads, call-ups, and injuries. So at least they have that to look forward to. Tucson heads to a now Evander Kane-less San Jose Barracuda, which in terms of needing a get-right opponent, few could probably be better than the CUDA, who have shown some signs of life recently, but are still very much lacking a difference maker in net. It's, as we've seen throughout this weekend, in the immortal words of the very wise Rachel Dory, you can have all of the talent in the world skating around out there, but if you don't have a goaltender, none of it matters. Brett, thank you so much for coming on. We have absolutely...
Sorry for rambling.
Oh, no, I understand.
Story of my life.
But
great.
we've definitely exceeded the half an hour that we said.
No, we're good.
But
I appreciate it.
Anyways, we will let you go. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks,
Yes,
guys.
thank you, Brett.
I hope when you have time, we can do it again because that I talk a lot. So,
hey, we've got plenty of time. We just want to be respectful of your time.
No, thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it. All right, Brett Fera of the Arizona Daily Star, covering the Tucson Roadrunners. So, all right. Well, that's it for our weekend recaps, and feeling a little madness coming on here. So, Sean, you better introduce us into the next segment, or at least bring this one to a close.
We are going to take a break here, and then we will be getting to the cream of the crop, the best players of the weekend, and we do have a weekend quiz. If you're just here for Colorado and Tucson, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links, can be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills. We will be right back.
All right, I am on my way because, it's that time of the week. I was almost going to say the time of the day, but we don't do this every day. It's the cream of the crop with me, the Macho Man, C.C. Hawkley, and my good friend, my tag team champion of the world, Sean O'Brien. Sean, get those Shawnamaniacs going. Oh, yeah.
All right. It is time for Cream of the Crop, the best players from the weekend. So I'm going to kick it off first here. My first Cream of the Crop is Matthew Phillips from the Stockton Heat. 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points on the weekend. Sets up the game-tying goal and game-winning goals Sunday against Ontario to get Stockton that Sunday dub. Matthew Phillips, a 1-3-4 weekend. You are my first Cream of the Crop. CC/Macho Man, who is your first Cream of the Crop?
Well, we're going to stay in the Pacific Division, but we're going to go to the San Jose Barracuda, and we're going to talk about Alexander Shemilevsky. Sasha, if you're nasty. Oh, yeah, Sasha Shemilevsky. That one's a tough one to say. That's a tongue twister. But he had a hat trick and a secondary assist to help boost the Barracuda 6-3 over the Henderson Silver Knights. First 4-point game of his since April 30th, 2021, and that's the second of his AHL career. Sasha, my first cream of the crop.
For me, my second cream of the crop, and possibly our MVP of the season so far, Andrew Podorowski, Chicago Wolves. Good leaders speak with their actions, and after getting beat 8-0 on Friday, Podorowski puts up 2 goals and an assist on Saturday and a goal and 2 assists on Sunday for a 6-point weekend. That's pretty good, 6 points in a weekend, especially after getting shut out the first night. That was a big statement and a big driver of coming back to make Chicago get 2 dubs on the weekend. Andrew Podorowski, my second cream of the crop. CC, who is number 2 for you?
Well, it's got me craving pasta here because we're going to talk about Michael Del Zotto. Yeah. Makes me want some ziti. Ooh, yeah. Maybe Michael Del Ziti. Oh, I'm getting distracted. Let's get back to Del Zotto. Welcome back to the AHL, Mikey. Last time he skated in the A was with the Connecticut Whale. Oh, no, not the Whale. 2010-11. Oh, God, I'm having a panic attack. Yeah. Oh, well, hey, he played for a number of different NHL teams in the 11 seasons between, and he comes back. He contributed 3 goals and 3 assists for 6 total points on the weekend. Helped the B-Sens split the weekend with those Springfield Thunderbirds. Michael Del Zotto, yeah. Welcome back to the AHL. You're my second cream of the crop. Rising to the top. Yeah.
For me, my third and final cream of the crop is TJ Tynan of the Ontario Reign. A 1-goal, 5-assist, 6-point weekend. Scores the game-tying goal in the third period, then sets up the OT winner on Saturday and chips in 2 more assists on Sunday. A 6-point weekend in 2 games. That's good. Cream of the crop for TJ Tynan. That is my top of the cream of the crop. CC, who is the last cream of the crop for you?
Well, you might be tying your boots up over there with Ontario, but I'm going to go back to Rockford. We're going to go with Brandon Peary. That's a name we haven't heard in a while in the AHL. Surprised a lot of folks when he signed a PTO with Rockford before the Chicago Wolves game on Friday. He had an assist in that game. Then he drops a hat trick on Milwaukee as the Ice Hogs, oh my goodness, they sweep the weekend. Are they picking up some steam, picking up some momentum? They're like a freight train. Oh, watch out for this choo-choo. Oh, yeah. 4 total points in his first 2 games back of the year. Coming back. Yeah. Is this a Pyrrhic victory? No, it's a Pyrrhic victory, baby. Oh, yeah. The Rockford Ice Hogs and the returning Brandon Peary. Space is the place. The sky's the limit. That's my top for the cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
All right. And that brings us to a very fun quiz that I have planned for CC today. If you are listening on the podcast version, I will say this quiz is going to be challenging for you. You may want to jump over to YouTube to watch this, as we're going to play a game I like to call Mug Shots. And what we have here is a series of 7 pictures that are literally the cropped chin up picture on their AHL player profile. These are well-known, well-established AHL players that we have talked about, some in this very episode. And basically, without context of what team they play for, CC is going to have to try and guess who they are. He gets 2 shots at it. Basically, if he recognizes the player right off the hop and says, oh, that's Joe Smith, and it is Joe Smith, he gets 2 points. If he goes, all right, I don't know, I need help, he's going to get 3 options. And if he picks the right option for the player, he's going to get 1 point. You need 4 points to win, CC, which, given that scoring system, doesn't sound like a lot, but you'll see this is actually kind of challenging. I did this earlier, and it's not easy. So without further ado here, let's get started. You first up, right off the hop, do you know this player?
Oh, of course. That's Sheldon Dries.
Wow. CC coming out hot. That is, in fact, Sheldon Dries. Mama Dries, very proud of you right now, CC. CC on the board for 2. All right. Second mugshot.
Oh, man. I have no idea. It looks familiar, but man, we see a lot of faces on it. The AHL.com.
All right. So we'll go to 3 options here. Is it A, Martin Firk of the Ontario Reign, B, Andrew Poldarowski of the Chicago Wolves, or C, Cooper Marody of the Bakersfield Condors?
Oh my goodness. Is that Martin Firk?
Is that your answer?
Yes.
It is not. That is Andrew Poldarowski.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever actually seen a picture of Andrew Poldarowski. If I have, it just hasn't stuck in my memory. So we cover a lot of names, but yeah.
Still way ahead of the game here.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Next up, right off the bat, do you know that one?
No, certainly don't.
All right. We will go to 3 options. Is it A, Andy Walensky of the Stockton Heat, B, Joe Hicketts of the Iowa Wild, or C, Cody Franzen of the Hershey Bears?
Oh my goodness. See, these are all names that I'm very familiar with, but to attach a picture to them, there's hundreds of players that we've covered over the past. Oh my God. What was the first choice?
It was Andy Walensky, then Joe Hicketts, then Cody Franzen.
Oh, is that Andy Walensky?
Is that Are you Ron Burgundy?
Yes. Yes. Let's go with Andy Walensky. Final answer.
I'm sorry, that is Joe Hicketts.
Well, that was my gut instinct, but as you know me, I have a bad habit of not going with my gut when I should. So,
Well, all right. You still got plenty of runway here. You got 4 more. You only need 2 points.
okay.
All right. Up for number 4. Do you recognize that right off the hop?
No.
Would you like to take a guess for free?
I wouldn't even know where to start.
All right. We'll go to options then. Is it A, Mikhail Burden, Manitoba Moose, B, Jake Ottinger, Texas Stars, or C, Eric Kalgren, Toronto Marlies? It is a goalie.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I think I've seen a picture of Mikhail Burden before. I'm going to say Burden. Hey, final answer.
There you go. Cece has his third point. 1 more for the dub. That is Mikhail Burden.
Birdman.
All right. Next up. Any guesses?
A man who has very thick black eyebrows like I do. I don't know, though.
All right. We will go to multiple choice here. Is it A, Chris Terry, Bridgeport Sound Tigers, B, Andrew Agazzino of the Belleville Senators, or is it C, Ryan O'Reilly's brother, Cal O'Reilly of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms?
Oh, my God. You see photos of these guys with their helmets on. They look 100% different. It's such a psychological mind
Hence the fun.
screw. Hence the fun for someone here anyway. I'm going to say, oh gosh, that's not Cal O'Reilly, is it? Cal O'Reilly. Why not? Final answer.
That is Chris Terry of the Bridgeport Sound Tigers.
That was going to be my first choice. Oh.
Still got 2 more. All right. 6 out of 7 coming at you. Initial guess.
Harry McHarrison.
All right. Is it A, Logan Thompson, Henderson Silver Knights, B, Joey DeCord of the Charlotte Checkers, or C, Kyle Kaiser Soze of the Providence Bruins?
Okay, so it's a goalie, obviously.
It is a goalie. He looks
That's
so normal, too.
Joey DeCord?
That the going
Joey DeCord.
That is Logan Thompson of the Henderson Silver Knights.
Again, I am ignoring my gut.
All right.
I'm going to punch something. I better get this right. Otherwise.
Last one. Number 7. Initial guess.
Thrilled to be here.
All right. I will tell you, it is a defenseman. Is it A, Riley Walsh of the Utica Comets, B, Jacob Megna of the San Jose Barracuda, or C, Jordan Gross of the Colorado Eagles?
Oh, this is embarrassing. Oh my God, this is embarrassing. I'm going to risk complete and utter lambasting from my home market and say Jordan Gross from the Colorado Eagles. Final answer.
That is Jordan Gross.
I'm like, okay, this guy looks familiar. He looks so familiar. But again, helmet, AHL TV. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Cece with the emergency victory. Oh, man.
Oh, that was the most nerve-wracking game most nerve-wracking quiz I think I've ever taken here on the Calder Farmstead. If you do this to me again, for every photo that you present to me, I will kill you.
Well, maybe someday you'll get to turn the tables on me and make one of your very own.
Oh, maybe. I might have to Yeah, put my work into that. Honestly, I know how much pleasure you derive from this, though.
Oh, I got great value out of this watching you squirm, especially with that last one. I'm like, should we put Jordan Gross at the end just because we can? Of course we should.
And I've never interviewed the man in person when I've covered the Eagles games that I did this year. I haven't seen him. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed watching me squirm.
Well, you have 30 untimed seconds, CC. What is on your mind?
Well, boy, there's a lot of things on my mind. I tell you what, but, it's, I'm for the first time. I mean, people know me. I'm a talker. I like to talk, but, I'm pretty speechless this time around. So Sean, I'm going to defer to you.
Ooh, passing on. All right. Well, I will take it. I had a rant planned because I thought that you would possibly lose this quiz, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, you came perilously close to.
Perilously, yes.
But I would like to talk about this notion that I've encountered a lot recently in fan bases about bad refereeing. I understand when you're sitting at the game, away from, far away from the play and stuff, up in the nosebleeds or even up close, things that look like penalties when your guy gets brought down to the ice and, oh, ref, you suck, didn't make that call. I watched one in the Utica Comets game where Frederick Gauthier got caught from behind by a Wilkes-Barre Scranton defenseman, stripped to the puck and no call. And both of his line mates were right up in the ref's face. People on the fan page calling for the ref's head. That was the correct call. I watched the replay again. That was the correct call. And you see that a lot in the AHL. And I really wish we could at least get a little bit more of the slow our roll to call for the heads of refs. A lot of times that penalties are missed, you'll get a makeup call later. That is how this dumb sport works. But you should also remember, you don't have a very good eye of what that play looks like from that ref's perspective. Not only that, they're closer to the play to you, and they know the rule book better than you. You should really, really slow your roll, watch a couple of replays before you start breaking out the pitchforks, because I really don't like having to defend referees in Facebook discussions of bad refereeing. And yes, bad referees and blown calls do absolutely still happen. They happen at the NHL level too. It's a fast game and two guys are trying to watch 12. Stuff is going to get missed. Sometimes they're going to call things that are penalties that shouldn't be. Those happen. But by and large, refs get it right. Please calm down.
I agree 100%. And Sean, although I did relinquish my 30 seconds to you, what I won't relinquish is our outro. And we're going to keep that status quo. So that will do it for episode number 74 of the Calder Farmstead AHL podcast. That's it for the show. Thanks for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and several other great hockey, sports, and sports entertainment, or pro wrestling if you prefer, programs at fullpresscoverage.com. Just click the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website. That's all the podcasts you can listen to. That's a big list. And enjoy. And of course, of all those podcasts you could listen to, you chose to listen to us. So thank you for that.
And if you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure you subscribe to get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter or at The Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found in our link tree, which is linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. Wherever you're listening to us from, the Calder Farmstead is spelled there. You can find a way. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's AD_DYSFUNCTION. So we can make music for you too. Cece, where can people find you?
Well, my name is CC Hawkley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL and at my personal Twitter account at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. I mainly tweet about hockey stuff, but got a little bit of an interest in pro wrestling, music, movies, pop culture, you name it. hopefully if it keeps me interested, it's not going to be bullshit for you. You can also check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at fullpresshockey.com. Sean, enough about me. Where can the people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien _81. Apparently, my Instagram of our weather here in my hometown was apparently used on the Washington Post coverage of the storm. I didn't see it, but that's what I am told. So apparently you can find me, amateur weather guy, on Instagram. But the majority of my stuff is on Twitter. My stats work, including the point shares model, the game preview predictions, all of the standings projections, goaltending things, special teams hoo-has, lucky things with pucks. All of that can be found on my Tableau page at bit.ly/data dump and chase. All lowercase, all one word. Cece, take us home.
Once more, that will do it. Stick a fork in episode number 74 because it is done. Thank you for tuning into the show. For Sean O'Brien, I'm Cece Hawkley. Thank you all for tuning in. And as always, keep your stick on the ice.